Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Big Three, the podcast where we unpack the biggest stories and insights shaping influencer marketing and the creator economy. I'm your host, Ceci Carloni. Today's episode is a guest conversation. Joining me is Brianna Doe, founder of Verbatim. Brianna and I actually connected coincidentally for the first time a year ago today, and we recently caught up again on a quick chat. We were talking and it felt like there was a bigger conversation worth having around how creative marketing is actually playing out behind the scenes. So we thought it would be a great opportunity to sit down and unpack things like how brands are actually making decisions when it comes to creators, especially as more teams try to enter the space for the first time, why there's still a disconnect between what teams say they want and how they actually operate, and why the industry honestly keeps repeating some conversations. Brianna, welcome. Great to have you here and great to see you again. How's everything going?
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's great to be back chatting with you, and things are good. How are things with you?
Everything's good. It's been a busy week, but again, it's April already. I don't know how that happened. It's been a crazy start to the year, but it's a very exciting year. Let me say that. I have to be, yeah, I want to say that. It's been an exciting year so far and excited for what comes next.
Love it. Me too.
Okay, before we dive into like the main conversation for today's episode, give us a quick overview of like a quick introduction, an overview of your journey in the industry and what you're most focused on today.
Definitely. So, like you mentioned, I run Verbatim. It's an influencer marketing agency. We also do speaker scouting for events. I started in the B2C space about 14, 15 years ago, worked in really generalist roles. So I was owning like influencer marketing, social, demand gen, content, wearing all the hats. And then transitioned into tech about 5 or 6 years ago and worked in both. I always worked a full-time job and was also doing fractional marketing on the side, mainly so I could kind of keep my thumb on the pulse of multiple industries within
Yeah.
marketing. And then I launched Verbatim in 2023. We started as full service, but honestly, influencer marketing is my passion. I love it. I love the space. So we niched down to that about 2 years ago, and that's what we do now. So that's my main day to day is running Verbatim. We work with B2B and B2C brands to build their influencer programs. And then I also am the host of Stop the Scroll, which is a newsletter and podcast where I basically explore internet culture and decode virality.
Yeah. Brie, obviously, you have a very unique POV of the industry. You work closely with both brands and creators. I'm curious what's
Mhm.
been catching your attention the most in the space lately.
Yeah, and for context, so I also create content on LinkedIn, and so I've been able to build relationships with a lot of creators and
Yeah.
also for the first time, like, see the
I
creator
remember
side of
you.
things.
I
Yeah.
remember we chatted about Anish Love.
Yes, Anish,
Yeah.
my agent. Yeah. So it's nice. I think it allows me to have more honest conversations with creators too, right? Because I understand what their goals are, but I also understand the brand's goals. And that's really, I think, been the main it's been really impactful for the business and just for how I interact with
Yeah.
brands and creators. It's most of the time there's so much disconnect between what the creator wants and what the brand wants. And it's like they don't know how to talk to each
100%.
other, as I'm sure you're well aware. And so helping them kind of bridge that gap and reframe what they're working on and what their goals are so that the other person understands is
Yeah.
crucial.
Yeah. There's like almost you made me think about that movie Lost in Translation.
Yeah, oh my gosh, I used to love that movie.
Okay, from what you've seen in the last few years, let's not rewind that. Let's not go that far back, but let's say from what you've seen in the last 2 years, especially from again your unique POV, being a founder, creator, and working with them, fans and creators very closely. What's your thesis on the creator economy today in terms of where we are? How would you describe this moment in the industry? Where do you think everything is going?
I think we're either at or rapidly approaching a crux or a fork in the road. Like, on one hand, we see this rise in AI content, AI generated content. We're seeing like AI influencers. We're also seeing people, consumers mainly, including myself, growing increasingly wary of said AI generated content and influencers.
100%.
You also have the creator economy itself, which is growing so rapidly. You have so many people that want to become creators that are starting to quote unquote build in public or just create content online. And you have more brands that are starting to see the value of the creator economy, and it's less of an uphill battle to show them or validate like influencer
Yeah.
marketing to them. And I think that fork in the road that I'm referring to is really going to stem from like I don't want to say like a bloated creator economy, but so many content creators in so many industries and so many brands trying to leverage so many creators. I think it's going to be a good problem to have, candidly, because there's a lot more respect, I think, for the industry. But it's going to be harder and harder to stand out online, I think. And so brands
Okay.
will have to be they'll be challenged in a good way to be more creative with the way that they activate influencers and not just treat them as like contractors, right? Like you're just paying them for this one thing, but make sure they're integrating them into their marketing strategy and giving them like more creative freedom to build more impactful campaigns. I think we're just so I'm preaching to the choir, but I just feel like we're so overloaded with content, right? And so that's always been the conversation. It's like, how does a brand stand out on social when there's so much content for people to consume? The
Yeah.
same question is coming to influencer marketing, and I think it's going to lead to just more impactful and more memorable content.
Yeah. Wait, let me ask you this because when you said fork in the road, what
Fork in
was
the
it?
road, yeah.
Okay, that made me feel like an abrupt stop. So do you think that's what we need to do right now before things keep like growing and changing, like stop and reassess?
No, I don't think people brands are going to stop at this metaphorical fork in the road. I think they're just going to make the decision of, like, to do what they've always done with influencer marketing or just to do what they see their competitors doing,
Yeah.
or on the other side, to think outside of the box to maybe be a little riskier or, like, take some more risks and experiment more with creators. I
Yeah.
think that's gonna be the decision, but it'll happen really quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and that's what I meant. Not stop doing influencer marketing, but
Yeah.
reassess their play game or strategy. Um, okay, let's bring this down to a level because this is where things start to play out in practice, and
Mhm.
this is exactly what we wanted to sort of unpack today. When you look at how brands are approaching creator marketing today. What has changed the most compared to even a few years ago? And what surprised you the most for either good or bad?
Oh, I have many thoughts. One, I know we've seen, like, those brand trips for a long time, especially in
Yeah.
B2C, where they'll, group 15 creators maybe and take them to, like, Tulum or something. But I think we're also starting to see just more micro events. Like, I think brands are starting to test the waters with that a bit more and, um, find ways to, like, engage with influencers, engage with their audiences in real
Yeah.
life as opposed to just online. I think that's a good change and a cool change. I think it's also a cool way for influencers to feel more, like, invested in the brand. I also think B2B marketing it's still growing really quickly, but I think it's not necessarily growing in the way people expected. Like, brands are tightening their belts a bit and making sure everything tracks back to attribution and ROI, which is good, but it's also leading to, I think, less creative control for more influencers, especially when we look at, like, LinkedIn as an influencer marketing channel. And so I think B2B influencer marketing is a space that's gonna be really fun to watch, but brands are still taking some time to figure out, like, what that will look like and if it's actually worthwhile for them on LinkedIn. And I also think we're starting to see more creators like I mentioned earlier, like, more integrated into the marketing strategy. So you're seeing, like, these head of storytelling roles or, like, a
Yeah.
corporate
I
Natalie,
love
like,
that.
being brought on as, like, as a consultant, and I think that is amazing. I think it's
Yeah.
a sign that brands they see the value in this work, and they see how it can impact the kind of content they're putting out, how their audience sees them, how they're engaging online, and you see that through, like, real investment. They're investing in these creators and bringing them along on the journey, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah. Do you think we every brand should do that? Meaning having creators in-house or more integrated into their marketing strategies or programs? Can all
Hmm.
brands actually do that? Is that infrastructure in every brand prepared to make that switch?
That's a good question. No, I don't think every brand should have I think it depends on your industry, your goals, and your audience. Like, the first questions should always be, like, what does my audience care about? Where do they live, quote unquote, online? Who do they care about? Like, who are they following? Who are they engaging with? And how do they like to consume content? That should inform the ways that you work with creators. So I don't think having in-house creators works for every brand. You might not need them in-house. I think
Okay.
maybe it's, just partnering longer term with creators that focus on long form content that's, really in depth, or it's focusing on TikTok or whatever the case may be for your audience. But I do think if you are working with creators, you should make influencer marketing less of like a standalone channel. It shouldn't live in a silo. It should
Oh,
inform.
100%.
And I think that's also the change we're seeing, where more brands are integrating it more. So it's the influence marketing team isn't working just on their own. They get to work alongside social or paid, um, and actually build a more holistic program.
Yeah. Brie, let me ask you this. Obviously, I assume you have a lot of conversations with both brands and other creators. So I'm
Mm.
curious about what are the main or the typical conversations you're having with them? What are the main challenges, the misconception, the pain point that keep coming up?
So I'll start with creators. With creators, it's some of the questions or challenges I hear a lot about are, I feel like I'm being underpaid by brands. Like the offer that I get or the offer I send never matches the counter
Yeah.
offer. Um, or brands just want to do like one-off posts with me. How do I get them to start doing like longer term partnerships? And on the brand side, which I think feeds right back into it, on the brand side, the challenges I see a lot and hear a lot about are, how do I, okay, we're going to work with, let's say, 10 influencers. What will be the exact ROI from each influencer? How do we measure it? And how do I report this back to leadership? Or how do I know where to start with budget? Like, how do I know how much I should be paying a creator? And they're all valid challenges. I think with creators, it's a matter of kind of what I was alluding to earlier, like how you define success. Let's say it's, a certain engagement rate or a certain follower count. You need to make sure when you're pitching yourself to a brand or negotiating, you are framing your impact in a way that contributes to their objectives for the campaign. So if they say to you, we're running a
Okay.
campaign on brand awareness, yes, you're going to lean more into like your impressions and, average engagement rate. If they say they're looking to drive conversions or leads, you'll look more at your audience demographics and how it ties to their ICP or, things like that. And with brands, I think they need to stop thinking of influencer marketing as an exact replica of a traditional paid advertising channel. Like I could put $100 into Facebook ads and it'll give me at least a
Yeah.
rough estimate of where each cent is going to go. With influencer marketing, there's a lot more messaging refinement and experimentation along the way, especially if you're building this for the first time.
Yeah. Brie, do you ever wish, because I remember this is also something that we chatted about last time. Do you ever wish that some of the conversations were not as repetitive? I mean, do you ever find yourself wishing those conversations were like different or going deeper into how this actually works in practice? In the sense that, we I don't know, I feel like there's some things that we keep hearing over and over again, like creative freedom, fair payments, the things that break, when brands want to partner with creators, what creators ask and what brands deliver. I mean, it's I feel we're stuck right around those
Yeah.
conversations.
Completely agree. I think they're important conversations to have, but at the same time, how many times can we have it? And I feel that way about, even some of the way I approach my speaking engagements.
Okay.
I've when we start talking through topics and, what I'm gonna talk about with influencer marketing, I make it very clear, unless specifically asked, I don't wanna do like a influencer marketing 101 session on, how to give influencers creative control. I wanna dive into how to actually build an influencer program, what to consider, um, what to look for in a creator, for creators, what to look for in the right brand partner, how to then take this batch of creators and build a 90-day pilot and then expand that into a 6-month program, like things like that. I think I agree with you wholeheartedly. I don't know if it's influencer marketing specific or if it's a marketing problem, but I think we tend to get stuck in this cycle of the same like
Which
abstract conversation
by
as
no means,
opposed to
yeah, by no means I was trying to say those conversations are not important.
no, of
Those are
course.
very highly relevant, highly important conversations. But you get my point, I think.
I do, and I agree with you. They are very important conversations. We do need to be having them. I think there's also space to start having more tactical and less abstract conversations as well.
Okay.
Okay, let's say you now know as a marketer, yes, I need to give the influencers creative freedom. I need to pay them fairly. Your next question is probably going to be, now what do I do in the first 30 to 60 days of the influencer program to make sure that we hit the ground running, it gets off to a good start? and I'm able to see what's working and what's not. Like, I think that's we can also move to the next phase of the conversation, and I love that part of the combo.
Yeah. Yeah. Brie, when those conversations start to shift into actually the way the creator programs run, what tends to break or slow down once brands get started?
2 main things pop out. Usually, if they didn't entirely nail down how they're defining success for the campaign or program before they launched it. So influencers are starting to draft
Yeah.
content, maybe content is going live, but the marketing manager has certain KPIs that they're tracking against. The CMO has other ones, and you haven't really defined which ones are the primary metrics and which ones are secondary.
That goes back
So
to the idea that you said before, everything needs to be
right.
in one place.
Exactly.
Let's
So
make it
that's
easier.
one problem. Let's make it easier and make sure you're aligned internally. 'Cause that's the number one problem that I see. That's what slows things down or breaks
Yeah.
it. The program ends, you do like a say you do like a 90-day pilot or something, and half the team says it was successful, half the team says it was a fail. That could have been avoided if you'd aligned on success beforehand. And then I'll also say a more logistical blocker tends to be contracting and invoicing. So making sure you have a clear system for
Yeah.
who contracts are going to, who's reviewing them, following up to make sure they're getting signed, and then getting invoices out the door promptly within whatever payment terms you have set out, because that can also bring it can slow a program down.
Okay. And when you think about teams entering the space for the first time, what feels more unclear or unstructured for them today?
I think it would be similar to what I just said. I think it would be the how to define success. That's a question we get
Mm.
often. It's a fun question because we get to figure out, we get to define that with the team or with our clients, but it's, at the end of, let's say we're running a specific campaign, it has an end date. How are we actually going to know if was successful or not? And how do we know what to change along the way or what to refine or optimize? I would say that's the number one.
Okay. Let me ask you this, Brie. I know that something that comes up a lot is that brands say they want authentic content, but still try to control everything. Why does that tension still exist?
I'm laughing because it happens so often. Honestly, I think I'd be curious what you think. I think a lot of it stems from fear. Like, you have to report as the marketer, you have to own the results of this program. So, let's say
Yeah,
it's a brand new program and your leadership team is looking to you to explain or justify this,
the spend.
30,000 spend,
Absolutely.
whatever the case may be. You wanna take as few risks as possible, right? And so back to that traditional ads channel example, you wanna be able to, plug in 4 variants of copy, $100 in the ad, and know what results you're going to get. It's difficult to not let go completely, but to, like, let go of some of that control. That's my opinion. I think kind of just a fear of the unknown. It's a new channel to a lot of brands, and it's new, it's different.
Yeah, I think that brand safety comes
Mhm.
up a lot within those conversations too, right? You want to give them
Yeah.
enough freedom, but there's also the concern if both the creator and the deliverables would be brand safe. I mean, safe for the brand.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm guessing here, but
No, I
that,
I would agree with that. Brand safety is huge, and also, like, you don't necessarily wanna stray too far from the brand voice, even though this isn't your own channels anymore. So
yeah,
I yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I think that's why it's so important to have, the creative brief, which I think we talked about last time we
yeah,
spoke. Give the creator one, align internally on what that should look like, right? Like what you're comfortable with them saying, what they can't say, whether it's for legal compliance, whatever, and then give them those parameters and then let them craft content that they know engage their audience within those guidelines and still have a round or two of feedback and approval. It's okay to make edits, but you don't want to own the content. You want the
yeah,
creator's voice to shine through.
yeah. Okay. And on the flip side, I mean, on the creator side, what do you think actually makes a creator care about a brand?
That's a great question. I mean, it always helps if it's a product or service they already use. But I think outside of that, I think they need to know that the brand also cares about them, that they're not just kind of to your point, like they're not just going to be handed ad copy and told to post it. Like they're working with you, they're partnering with you. Like they're not your employee necessarily. And so I think showing them that trust, like, hey, we want to partner with you because we really value your content. We love the way you show up online, and then giving them opportunities to share that content in a way that feels authentic is really important. I
Yeah.
think that helps. And also, not treat them like a number, like only doing one-off posts with them and then saying bye and never coming back. Like give them a chance to invest over a couple of months or, whatever that partnership shapes out as.
Do you think we're making an improvement there? That's another of the
Mm.
conversations we keep hearing, right? Doing creator marketing, treating creator marketing not just a one-off, but crafting creator programs and almost like ambassadorships. And I've seen some improvement, but I'm curious about what do you think?
Yes, I think we've seen improvements. I think we've seen drastic improvements. Some of it does depend on the industry. I think some industries are behind in this. Um,
Yeah.
but I think marketers I think marketers doing a good job of kind of shifting the trends there.
We talked a lot about what's broken and what needs to change. I'm curious about how were you personally navigating the shift in your own work, both as a creator and when you're working with brands.
So with brands, it's similar approach as it's been for the last couple of years. I just focus on the education piece first because I think
Love that.
there's so much.
Very much
It's very much needed. Like, I can Google how much should I pay a creator with X followers and X engagement rate on Instagram, and I will get 17,000 different articles with slightly different rates, right?
yeah.
And so there's a lack of standardization in the space that I think it is hard to standardize. I mean, influence marketing is constantly changing. So we focus on the education piece first, like making sure our clients, yes, they come to us for guidance and we own the programs, we build them, but that they also feel empowered to start to understand the impacts that they're driving through the creator program, and how to work with creators well. On the creator standpoint, or as a creator, I try and just also have really honest conversations with other creators about it too. Like, I guess it is still education. I mean, so much of it, so much of the disconnect, I do think stems from creators not knowing how to articulate their impact in a way that makes sense for the brand. And like, you can't
Yeah.
command certain rates or complain about certain things if you aren't essentially marketing your work well, more
100%.
effectively. And so I think that's an important piece of it too. And it's fun. I think it's fun to make those conversations less intimidating for people. Like, I think the creator economy I'm really biased, but I think it's such a fun space. I think influence
It
marketing is
is.
so fun, but it's the most fun when there's that trust between like the marketer they're working with and the creator. And that I think just takes a lot of conversation and somebody that can kind of translate for both of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. I'm curious. I know that your podcast is coming back. What are the kind of conversations you're hoping to have in there? Is it more like
Yeah,
the honest conversations that you just said, or is it about something else?
they're definitely honest conversations. So for context, the first season of Stop the Scroll was only centered on B2B influencer marketing. Like,
Yeah.
I'd bring on a B2B influencer, marketer, or just marketer and ask them like how they were building their program, what was working, what wasn't. But what really interests me about the creator economy is the psychology behind all of it. Like, not why did this thing go viral, but what does it say about us that it did? What does it say about how we show up online? What does it say about how we create content or consume content? And so I'm bringing on like founders, marketers, like psychologists, data scientists, so that we can start to understand, okay, we talk about this algorithm all the time, all these
Yeah.
algorithms. Like, what is an algorithm? How is it built? How
Okay.
does it work for us? How does it work against us? And so it's more of an exploration of virality and the psychology behind it as a whole, which I think is fun. And I think the conversations just lend themselves to being more honest because it's less about like your program specifically.
Yeah. Why the psychology?
Honestly, I'm
Is
just
that
fascinated by it. Like, I've always been really interested in understanding
the human being?
why people do yeah, like, why we do the things we do, how we communicate. I studied film and media in college, and I had a professor who talked a lot about this, how, film and TV impact media, right? It impacts society, but then society also impacts, like, what we're seeing in TV and in the theaters, and so I just found that to be such an interesting
Yeah.
circle, and I think that's also why I love marketing so much. I love the data behind it, and I love being able to say, "Okay, like, here's the primary data we were pulling and the secondary. Like, what does this tell us about the people engaging with the content?" I could nerd out about it.
Maybe that's a conversation for another episode, but
We should. We should do
that would
it.
be wow.
It's been fun. I'm currently researching I think virality as a whole has shifted, like, how we define it. I think there are 3 types of virality now, so I've been doing a lot of research on that. I just think, yeah, I think the space is really, really
Yeah, it's a fun, interesting space for
cool. Yeah.
sure. Bree, to wrap up today's conversation, if you were sitting in a CMO seat today, what's the one thing you would change immediately about how your team approaches creator marketing?
Ooh, I love this question.
It's a good one. No.
That's a really good I'm trying to pick one answer. I have, like, 47 things. Hmm, I would man, I have so many things I wanna say. I'm trying to pick just one. I would have us reevaluate the kinds of influencers we're probably working with. So one thing that I hear often is I'm sure you've heard, like, this debate between working with, like, micro influencers versus macro. Like, only work with macro or only work with micro because they have more niche audiences, they're smaller, there's more impact. Other people say only work with macro because 'cause you're getting all the reach. I think the best programs have a combination of both, and a lot of programs
100%.
don't include both, sometimes just because of budget. But if I had the budget, I'd wanna rebuild our programs that we had influencers that basically, um, identify within each of those tiers, some micro, some nano, some macro, maybe some mega, um, so that I can fully track how messaging is, like, being consumed and engaged with and resonating across different creator tiers with different engagement rates, different
Yeah.
types of engagement. That's where I'd wanna start because that's also gonna inform where I plug in different creators. Like, some would probably just be sponsored content, others would be at events, others would go to events on our behalf. Like, it would just let me build
Okay.
just a really cool full program. That's what I would do.
I love that answer. Bree, this was such a great conversation. Is there anything else that you want to share with the audience before we wrap things up?
I think the only thing I'll say is, like I said, like, yes, to find success before you start having influencers create content and post it, but also you don't have to have your entire program figured out before you start. Like, part of building a pilot, if you start with an influencer pilot, is learning, like figuring out what's gonna work, what message resonates. And so be open to refining that along the way, just like you would your ad
Yeah,
strategy.
love that. So Bree, thanks again for taking the time to sharing your perspectives, taking the time to, chatting with us. It's been great, and thanks again. And to everyone listening, that's it for today's episode of The Big Three. As always, thank you for tuning in, and we'll be back soon with more conversations and insights from across the creator economy. Talk soon. Bye, Bree.
Hi, thanks for having me.